I'm Jake, 28. A while back, if you'd asked, I would have sworn my brother Evan and I were inseparable growing up. We were two peas in a pod, building forts in the trees, gaming until dawn, having each other's backs when Mom was on our trail. But somewhere down the line, things went sour. Maybe it was after college, maybe it was him getting a big shot job and letting it go to his head. Or maybe he was always like that deep down. Whatever the reason, by our 20s, Evan acted like I was the family loser. Didn't matter what I did, it never seemed good enough for him. And the thing that really broke us wasn't some huge blow-up. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. Evan constantly making digs about me renting while he owned a condo, brushing off my promotion like it was nothing, sneering whenever I brought a girl home. Every family get-together was a chance for him to subtly put me down in front of everyone. If I ever said anything, he'd just say I was being too sensitive. "Lighten up, Jake," he'd say, giving me one of those back pats that were a little too rough. "It's just a joke. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at?" I put up with it for years, mostly because my parents worshipped the ground Evan walked on, and partly because I was dumb enough to think he'd eventually change. He never did. When he and Melissa got engaged, I was actually happy for him, at least at first. I thought tying the knot might be what he needed, to make him grow up a little. Melissa seemed all right, a bit uptight, but always nice when we bumped into each other. I couldn't make the bachelor party work, wouldn't let me, but I still sent a gift and a card, hoping for the best. I figured that'd be good enough. Then, about 3 weeks before the wedding, I got the message. "Don't even think about coming to my wedding, Evan," he wrote. "You'll just screw it up like you do everything else." I just stared at it for a while, feeling that familiar ache start in my chest. I shouldn't have been shocked. He'd made those little digs about the guest list before, giving me those looks like he had to invite certain people. But seeing it written out, cold and mean, still stung more than I expected. I didn't say anything back right away. I just sat there, feeling the weight of it all, the shame, the anger. I imagined him, laughing with Melissa and their friends, probably passing my message around for a laugh. I could practically hear his voice in my head, mocking and sneering. But then something changed inside me. Maybe it was years of putting up with his crap. Maybe it was just the sheer nerve of it. After everything I'd let slide, he thought he could just cut me out like I was some kind of mistake and expect me to just swallow it. I smiled. A real smile. The kind that starts slow but settles deep down inside you. I texted back, "Have fun trying to have a wedding at a place you don't own anymore." It took him hardly any time at all to text me back. "What's that supposed to mean?" I just ignored him. The thing is, 6 months earlier, I'd picked up this piece of land at a real estate auction. It was a good deal, right near town, an old winery that had gone belly up. I hadn't done much with it yet, fixed some leaks, trimmed back some of the overgrowth, but I was figuring on turning it into an event space down the line. What I didn't realize, until that very second, was that it was Evan's dream wedding venue. Yep, that was the place. Apparently, the winery's old owners were still advertising it for private events even after they went bankrupt, trying to make a little cash before the place officially switched hands. They hadn't updated anything, or told any of their clients the land wasn't theirs anymore. And Evan, naturally, hadn't bothered to do any real investigating. He just forked over a deposit, signed a bogus rental contract, and figured everything would work out because it always had. It was almost too perfect. At first, I was torn. I mean, it was his wedding. Should I really ruin the biggest day of his life? A part of me, the little brother who still remembered building forts and trading candy, whispered that I should just let it go, be the bigger man. But then I remembered all the times he made fun of me. Every dinner where he made me the butt of the joke, every single time, even my birthday when he forgot to invite me, then just laughed it off like I was overreacting, it all piled up. He'd constantly put me down, always figuring I'd just forgive him and come running back. But this time, nope. I wasn't playing nice. I picked up the phone and started making calls. First, I talked to a lawyer specializing in real estate to make sure I was totally in the clear to shut everything down. And I was, totally. Then I called the security firm I'd used when I first bought the place, setting up a team to keep an eye on things that wedding weekend. Finally, I sent a quiet email to the county clerk, letting them know some folks were trying to run an unlicensed event on my land without the right permits. Just in case Evan got any funny ideas when he realized what I was doing. The week before the wedding was so weird. I didn't hear a peep from Evan, not an apology, not a single word. He probably thought I was just threatening him, or that even if I wasn't, he could smooth things over somehow. That's always been his way. My parents, though, they were still sending out those happy-go-lucky texts, all "can't wait to see everyone at the wedding." Like nothing was happening, I didn't even bother to reply. I didn't have to. The trouble started brewing the night before the big day. I drove out to the winery. It was still a work in progress, a little rough around the edges, overgrown vines, some broken stones. But it was gorgeous, especially as the sun went down. I pulled over where I wouldn't be noticed, and just stared as Evan's crew scrambled around, putting up tables, flowers, and this huge arch covered in that flowing white stuff. I spotted some of his buddies by the food truck, laughing it up, totally clueless. Evan was there, bossing people around, sunglasses on his head like he owned the place. I just sat there in my car, hands on the steering wheel, feeling weirdly peaceful. This wasn't some childish thing. It wasn't mean. It was about evening things out. It was the universe finally getting it right. The security showed up around midnight, these quiet black SUVs with serious-looking guards. I went over, introduced myself, shook hands, and made sure everything was set. We decided to wait until the guests got there in the morning. No need to ruin the surprise too early. I hardly slept that night. Not because I was worried, but because I was so excited. Years of just sucking it up, keeping all the pain inside. It was all finally about to explode. The next morning was beautiful, crisp and sunny, not a cloud in sight. I got dressed, nothing fancy, jeans, a button-down shirt, and some shades. I didn't need to make a spectacle of myself. The situation would handle that. I got there a bit before the ceremony was supposed to start. The parking lot was filling up, guests in their suits and summer dresses, chatting and laughing as they headed toward the lawn. A string quartet was tuning up somewhere behind the winery. And then there was Evan. There was Evan right by the arch, fixing his tie, looking pleased with himself. I was leaning against my car, arms crossed, just waiting. It didn't take long for things to go sideways. At first, it was just little whispers, confused guests looking around, holding their gift bags or little plates of food. Then it just exploded like a fire taking hold. I watched as little groups of people huddled together, whispering like crazy. The bridesmaids, all in the same dresses, were shuffling around uncomfortably in their heels. One of the groomsmen pulled out his phone, clearly trying to get someone on the line, his voice getting louder and more frantic. Evan didn't notice any of it at first. He was too busy grinning for the cameras. Melissa looked amazing in her dress, standing near the arch. For a split second, watching them, I wondered if I was doing the right thing. If maybe, just maybe, I was screwing up something bigger than just Evan's inflated ego. Then I saw him look over, frown, and start stomping across the lawn, yelling, "What's going on? Who told the band to stop?" One of the security guards, let's call him Tom, stopped him. Tom was built like a brick wall with a shaved head and dark sunglasses that showed Evan's furious face right back at him. "Sir," Tom said, calm and professional, "you need to leave. This is private property. You're trespassing." Evan just laughed loud and disbelieving. "What are you talking about? I rented this place." Tom didn't even flinch. "Ownership has changed. The event is canceled. Please leave." Melissa had finally caught up, her veil all crooked and her face going white as a sheet. She was tugging at Evan's arm, whispering something frantic in his ear. He just brushed her off and turned back to the crowd, yelling, "Everybody stay put. This is all messed up." I paid for this place. That was my moment. I pushed off the car and started walking toward them, real slow and deliberate, hands shoved in my pockets. People started staring as I got closer. A couple of them actually gasped when they saw who it was. I ignored them all, my eyes fixed on Evan. He saw me when I was about 20 feet away, and his face just crumpled up in disgust like he'd tasted something bad. Yui hissed and stepped forward. "What have you done?" she demanded. I stopped a few feet from him, gave him this little smile, almost like I felt sorry for him. "I bought it," I said, just like that. 6 months ago, you'd have known that if you'd bothered to, actually look into things." "You're lying," he snarled. "I've got a contract with the old owners," I said with a shrug. "They didn't have the right to rent it anymore. That contract's no good. Sorry." He opened his mouth to argue, then kinda realized everyone was watching. Melissa's parents were standing there looking totally confused and horrified. One of Melissa's bridesmaids was blatantly filming the whole thing on her phone, pretending she wasn't. Melissa grabbed his arm again. "Evan," she hissed, "fix this. Now." He whipped around, and for a split second, I genuinely believed he was going to take a swing at me. His hands were balled up so tight, his knuckles were practically glowing. "You're wrecking my wedding," he snarled. "No," I said, my voice soft but clear. "You ruined our relationship years ago. This is just me finally refusing to put up with it anymore." I saw something flash in his eyes then, not just anger, but actual fear. The fact that for once he wasn't calling the shots, that he couldn't sweet talk or intimidate his way out of it. He tried regardless. "Fine," he said, plastering on a fake smile. "We'll give you whatever you want. Just let us have the ceremony. We'll be out of here in a couple of hours." I almost burst out laughing. It was such a classic Evan play. Wait until the very last moment, then throw cash at it like it could fix everything. But I just shook my head. "Not for sale." His face just sort of fell apart. Behind him, guests were already heading back to the parking lot, my mom and her friends, still in heels, lugging around screaming kids, guys loosening their ties, grumbling to themselves. The string quartet was packing up their stuff, like, super efficiently. The caterers were already pushing their carts away. Melissa was crying now, but silently, furiously. Her mascara was running down her face. Security was quietly but firmly escorting people off the property, making it super obvious this wasn't up for debate. A few people tried to argue. One red-faced uncle claimed he knew someone on the city council. But the security guys, they knew what they were doing. So there I was, all calm and cool, hands in my pockets, watching Evan's perfect day go completely to hell. I figured he might explode, maybe even try to get physical. A weird part of me almost wanted him to, you know? There was this sick thrill in picturing him getting arrested right then and there on his wedding day. But nope. He just kinda stood there wobbly, looking around at the mess. His folks were bright red and screaming at the security guys. Melissa's mom was a blubbering mess, crying into a tissue. The DJ was hauling his stuff back to his truck. The florist was ripping the flowers off the archway, petals flying everywhere like it was a confetti cannon gone wild. It was all over. I just turned and walked back to my car, quiet as a mouse, except for the little crunch of the gravel under my shoes. As I reached for the door handle, my phone buzzed a text from Evan. "I'm done with you," it said. I grinned, got in, and fired up the engine. I drove off real slow, enjoying the view in the mirror, Evan standing in the middle of that empty space, all slumped over, with Melissa's veil flapping in the wind like a sad, forgotten flag. That whole scene, it was a perfect picture of what their marriage would have been like, I think. I didn't go straight home, though. I needed to clear my head. So I stopped at this little coffee shop I love out by the edge of town. This coffee shop was a real dive, chipped paint and all, but it felt cozy, like hanging at someone's house. I grabbed a black coffee and sat by the window, already dreading the notifications blowing up my phone. Sure enough, Evan was going off. The usual crap, "How could you? You're crazy. I hope you're miserable." I didn't even try to answer. What was there to say? My actions spoke volumes. Then my family started in. Mom's text popped up, "Jake, call me now," followed by, "What did you do?" And "Your brother's wrecked." Then the kicker, "We raised you better than this." I stared at that one for a good long while. Raised me better, huh? This from the same woman who laughed right along with Evan's digs for years, the one who'd pat my shoulder and tell me to toughen up every time I dared to show I was hurting, like I was the problem. Then my dad's text came through, short and to the point for once. "We need to talk." I ignored it, just sat there, sipping my coffee and scrolling. There were a few surprises, though. My cousin Brian just sent a simple "about time someone took him down a peg." An old family friend messaged, "Saw the drama unfold. Honestly, you did everyone a solid." Even my roommate, who only knew bits and pieces of the story, texted, "Dude, you're a legend." I actually laughed at that one, a low, bitter chuckle. A legend? Maybe. Or maybe just a guy who finally snapped after years of being everyone's punching bag. An hour crawled by, then another. Sunlight crept across the cracked tiles, and I felt this weird lightness. Empty, yeah, but like a good empty. Like finally getting a breath of fresh air after years of choking on dust. I knew I couldn't just stay in that little coffee shop, though, no matter how much I wanted to. Pulling into my driveway, I spotted it immediately. A car parked across the street, engine humming. A slick black sedan. Evans. He was leaning against the hood, arms crossed, his jaw so tight I swear I heard his teeth grind. For a second, I thought about just hitting reverse and taking off. But I was tired of running. So I parked, turned off the car, and got out real slow, trying to look like I wasn't freaking out. Evan shoved himself off the car and practically stomped across the street. "You think this is funny?" he practically yelled before I even had my door shut. His face was bright red, veins throbbing in his temples. I just shrugged, leaning back against the car. "No, I think it's pathetic. You could have had it all today. You just figured the rules didn't apply to you." "The rules?" He practically spit the word out. "You're my brother." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Was." He just stared, breathing hard. I could practically see the wheels turning in his head, trying to figure out how to twist this whole thing around, make me feel guilty, make himself the victim. It was kinda amazing how quickly he could rewrite the story in his head. Then he switched gears. His voice went all soft and sweet, fake as hell. "Jake, come on, man. Okay, it's not a lost cause. We can try to fix this. I'll say I'm sorry. You want me to beg? All right, whatever it takes. Just make this go away." I slowly shook my head because that's not how this works. You can't treat someone like crap for years and then expect them to save you when things go south. He choked out, "You're ruining my life," his voice raw and trembling. I looked straight at him. "No," I said, "I'm just letting you face the music for once." He started to open his mouth like he was going to argue, but then he just shut it. He just stood there, gasping for air, his hands balling into fists and then relaxing. And then almost pitifully, he just crumbled like a broken toy. He turned and stomped back to his car, grumbling under his breath, probably spitting out every nasty name he could think of. I watched him screech out of the driveway, taking the corner way too fast. All of a sudden, the adrenaline just vanished, and I felt shaky but relieved. It was over. Not just for today, for all of it. The years of being less than, the silent dinners where my good stuff was ignored and my screw-ups were all that mattered. The holidays where Evan was the favorite and I was an extra. I went inside, kicked off my shoes, and fell onto the couch. My phone was buzzing like crazy across the room, but I didn't even look at it. I just lay there, staring up at the ceiling and feeling this weird, new sense of freedom sink in. Then, bam, a knock on the door loud enough to make me jump. I sat up real slow, heart pounding. Another knock, this one was way harder, like she was out of patience. I crept to the door and peeked through the peephole. There she was, my mom, arms crossed, a face like thunder. I just stood there, staring, trying to decide what to do. A big part of me wanted to pretend I wasn't even home, just crawl back onto the couch and ignore it all. But the way she stood there, stiff as a board, tapping her foot like she owned the place, man, it made my stomach churn. This wasn't a friendly visit. She was here to straighten me out, to lecture me until I did things her way. I opened the door just a crack, keeping her out of my apartment. "Jake," she said, sharp as a tack, like my name was something she didn't even want to say. "We need to talk." I didn't budge. She narrowed her eyes. "Don't play dumb. Your brother's devastated. You embarrassed the whole family today." I leaned against the doorframe, trying to keep my face blank. "He told me not to come, so I didn't. Sounds like I did exactly what he wanted." "You know that's not what he meant," she yelled, her voice getting louder. "You humiliated him on his wedding day." "Funny," I said, all flat and emotionless. "All I did was stand up for my property rights. I didn't pull a prank. I didn't mess with the food. I didn't even crash the wedding and cause a scene. I just did what the law says." "You knew what it would do," she practically spat at me. "You knew it would ruin everything." So there it was, that same old tone she always used, like when Evan flunked a class, it was the teacher's fault. When he totaled Dad's car, the road was to blame. Even when he broke up with his high school sweetheart, it was her fault, not his. She'd never once held him accountable for anything, and now this was no different. He hadn't checked the place out before booking his wedding, but it was my fault, right? Because I wouldn't just let it go, I crossed my arms just like her. Funny thing is, for years, Evan treated me like dirt. And you just laughed it off, told me to be the bigger person. Well, bigger person doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, does it? You could have talked to him, she shrieked, worked it out. Family's supposed to forgive. I let out a little laugh, but it felt sour, bitter. Forgiveness only works if they're sorry, you know. Has Evan ever said he regretted anything he did to me? Ever treated me like family instead of some afterthought? Her mouth opened and closed like she was about to say something. For a second, she almost looked guilty. Almost. Then, bam, she straightened up, that stubborn, proud look on her face. "This isn't about you," she snapped. "It's about your brother, about what you cost him today." "No," I said quietly. "It's about you never making him take responsibility, and now, for the first time, he's facing the music and you can't handle it." The words just hung there, heavy and awkward between us. She looked at me like I was a total stranger. Maybe she really didn't know me anymore. Maybe in her head I was still that goofy kid who always laughed things off, no matter what. She started to walk past me like I wasn't even there. I moved quick, blocking the doorway. "You're not coming in right now," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Call me when you're ready to actually talk, not just blame me for your precious son's screw-ups." Her face turned bright red, really angry. "You'll regret this," she snapped. "You're cutting yourself off from your family?" I gave her a slow, weary smile. "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'm finally free." I shut the door gently but firmly, the lock clicking softly. I stood there for a second, hand on the knob, my heart pounding. I thought for sure she'd start banging on the door, yelling and making a whole scene. But after a long silence, I just heard her heels clicking down the stairs and then her car door slamming shut. I leaned against the door, feeling wiped out but also amazing. Even though I was exhausted, there was this lightness inside me, like I'd finally dropped a huge weight I hadn't even realized I was carrying around for years. The next few days were a crazy mess. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Some family members sent furious texts. Others were sad and heartbroken. A couple of my cousins, the ones who always secretly had my back, texted to say they got it. They actually said they admired me, that they wished they could stand up for themselves like I did. Honestly, I mostly tuned them out. At work, people kept asking what was up with me. I seemed different, more content. I just grinned and said I did some spring cleaning, but not the kind with dust and junk. Evan never tried to contact me again. Neither did my parents. I heard that Melissa was absolutely livid, not just with Evan but his whole family for the total humiliation. The honeymoon got put on hold. I also heard that Melissa's folks were thinking about suing the winery for emotional damage until their lawyer told them they couldn't win. The only person they could sue was Evan for being a dummy. Kind of perfect, right? Then a few weeks later, I got this official-looking envelope. My heart leaped into my throat for a sec. A lawsuit? Nope, it was from the county. They were telling me my request to turn the winery into an event space was approved. I sat on my couch holding that letter and just started laughing so hard my sides ached. I spent the next few months getting the winery ready. I paid people to fix the leaks and hired landscapers to deal with the overgrown gardens. I put in new floors, painted the walls, and hung fairy lights from the big oak trees outside. It was tiring and cost a fortune, but it was also the best time of my life. Okay, so when everything was finally set, I had a little gathering. Just a sneak peek, for my friends and some clients I really liked. It wasn't some big over-the-top thing, but it was mine. Just being there that evening with music playing and the vines swaying in the breeze, it hit me. That day at the wedding, I hadn't just gotten my self-respect back. I'd gotten my life back. I wasn't chained to all that awful family drama or stuck in that guilt and anger anymore. I was free to actually make something real, something that would stick around. And if Evan or my parents or whoever else couldn't handle me doing well without them, well, that wasn't my problem anymore. As the sun went down behind the hills, everything turning this soft gold color, I raised my champagne glass and said cheers. Not to get back at anyone, not to prove anything, but to peace. After all that time, I'd finally found it, and I wasn't about to let it go.